Sambora, the Sambora. I've seen this at Guitar Center.
They were looking at what Gibson was doing with their pricing. You know, love it or hate it, they were almost like staying ahead of inflation like every year, whereas Fender was not really changing their prices. And one day they were like, why are we still charging, you know, $2,400, $2,500 for a USA made guitar when guys like Tom Anderson and Sewer and all these like high-end like super strat makers making in the US and charging $4,000 for their guitars. Fender was like, we're not charging enough for our custom shop guitars.
So again, nothing's really changed that much. Oh, here we go. Signature models. Sambora, the Sambora. I've seen this at Guitar Center, used. So he did have a signature one. That is an import. That's overseas, but it felt great when I picked it up. $539. Okay. So if they came out with Richie Sambora, Mexico today, right? I think that would be the equivalent of this one. And we had to say $539 back then is the equivalent of $976 today. I'm going to call no. I would say it'd be more than that today. If Richie Sambora came out with a signature model that was an import,
it'd be $1,500 bucks.
It'd be $1,500.
If I'm the guy that's in charge of it, I'm charging $1,500 bucks.
$1,500 on that all day. Yeah. Look at the Jimmy Vaughn, which is his brother, signature Tex-Mex Strat. That's pretty. I don't think I've seen these before.
The Clapton Strat. So basically, the modern version of Blackie at 1189, and that would have had the lace sensors in it.
Yeah, which that again puts us right in that territory of 1189. With the rate of inflation, we're going to probably be looking at, I'd like to say closer to 2. Maybe it goes over 2. Let's see.
I bet it does.
Yeah, we're 2154. Yeah. 2154 today. That's the equivalent. That Eric Clapton Strat. Wow. Yeah, let's see what we got here. We got some, the custom shops. Now it's going to get really tricky looking at these prices.
I know, but this is crazy because look, a custom shop for $2,169. $99. Is that the 51 Telly?
Yep, no caster.
So crazy because at one point
that's about average. Yeah, let's see what we got here. We got some the custom shops. Now it's going to get really tricky looking at these prices.
I know, but this is crazy because look, a custom shop for $2,169. $99. Is that the 51 Telly?
Yep, no caster.
So crazy because at one point
that's almost $4,000 today. $3,930.
Well, at one point Fender was like sitting there, like they were looking at what Gibson was doing with their pricing, because Gibson was, love it or hate it, they were almost like staying ahead of inflation like every year, whereas Fender was not really changing their prices but every couple of 3 years, and only really when they had to. And one day they were like, why are we still charging, $2,400, $2,500 for a USA made guitar and it was really, if I wasn't a part of these discussions, but the stories that I heard, but really when it was like, why are all these guys like Tom Anderson and Sewer and all these like high-end like super strat makers making in the US and charging $4,000 for their guitars? Fender was like, we're not charging enough for our custom shop guitars.
Wow.
They're like, these guys' brand names are, by comparison, valueless. I'm not saying that they are. Obviously, they've got a strong customer base and they make really fantastic guitars. But when you compare like almost anything to the Fender brand, as far as brand strength, why is an essential, small time, company that makes 300 to 400 to 500 guitars a year able to charge $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for a super strat, but Fender is only charging $2,500. But Fender,
the ones who made it, who made the Strat, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's kind of what this is before all that happened, obviously.
Wow, so that's a good coin there for that. It's almost $4,000 today, which is about right. We saw one popped up.
And it is, yeah.
Well, we got Rickenbackers, and they want you to call for the price.
Right, yeah, because Rickenbacker would not allow. All right, so here's the thing. A lot of you might have heard about map pricing. I think that's pretty common knowledge these days. Back then, in the year 2000, map pricing was just kind of starting out. Turned into a whole like sticky wicket for a lot of manufacturers because there was a class action lawsuit that named a lot of manufacturers, like the bigger ones, obviously, and then some of the bigger dealers, Guitar Center, Musician's Friend included, for collusion on pricing. And I can't remember what the result of that was, but basically that, like as buyers, the guys who dealt with the manufacturers, we would not be allowed to, there was I'm trying to think of the best way to say this. There were some things that we couldn't talk about, and pricing, we'd have to talk about pricing, but it wouldn't be like, hey, as the buyer, I want to sell this guitar for $21.79. Sell it to me for, I couldn't dictate the pricing.
Right.
Now, that isn't to say that if DeArmond comes to me and they say, we've got a S73 and map price on it is $400, I could say, what I can't say is, no, I'm going to sell it for $229, and that's how you need to price it. I couldn't tell them what to do. What I could say is, I think that the right price for this is $229.99, and here's kind of how many I think I'll sell based on that. We had all kinds of calculations that would tell us like not necessarily what the pricing should be,
Right.
but everyone in the buyer department, we were all musicians. We were all users of the gear that we were buying, and so we all had a really good idea of like what things should be, how much they should cost, what kind of features they should have.
Really? Yeah. Right. Makes sense. So you'd have to call into the price of these Rickenbackers. That purple and black is freaking incredible.
I know, it's beautiful.
That is unique, huh?
Beautiful.
Wow.
It's like one of the only brands I've never owned, but I've always wanted. It's like always been on my list.
It's a historical brand,
Rickenbacker.
man. Wow. Well, but you did list the price. You had to list.
Yeah, you could have and now list price has kind of gone extinct, but
Right.
And map price, obviously, they
Has a place there, right?
Because as the retailer, we would say, well, we'd have to collect all this information to put it into our system, and the retail price back in the day was, that really wasn't necessarily there to determine the sale price. It was there to determine the dealer cost.
Wow.
So dealers would have like their products would be an A mark, which was a certain percentage, usually 50% off of the list for the dealer cost, and then a B mark, which might be 30% off of the list for dealer cost, and then you'd have to figure out. But this is before there was even map pricing, so it was kind of like Wild West as far as like you'd walk into Guitar Center and you'd get a price on something, and you walk in the next day and you'd get a price on the same thing from a different sales guy, it'd be a totally different price.
Wow. Wow. Okay. Wow. That explains it.
The ultimate addition to your shred den has arrived. Masters of Shred has teamed up with Sandhill Customs to create the ultimate tribute to arguably one of the greatest rock bands to ever walk the planet with our limited edition Super Halen 1x12 Soldano amp. Each 1x12 cabinet and matching Soldano head housing is scientifically crafted with the highest grade materials to give you that monstrous tone that will light up the sky. You can be confident that your Super Halen amplifier is 100% authentic and truly one of a kind. Hand draped in the pages of a vintage 1990 Van Halen comic book, no two Super Halen amps are the same. Each Super Halen cabinet is loaded with a 12-inch warehouse guitar speakers Green Beret 25-watt speaker hand-built in the USA, which is a massive upgrade from the Celestion G12M greenbacks that we have become so accustomed to. Visit www.mastersofshred today to reserve your Super Halen amp before you can't get this stuff no more.